deniers are pretty much silenced now. Bloomberg, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, CNBC, Congress, the SEC, the CFTC, the Treasury, all the central banks of the world, they all kind of acknowledge it's not tulip bulbs. It's a real asset. It's a digital commodity. So the deniers are out of the mainstream.
And although there are still many skeptics who have yet to see the orange light,
Bitcoin itself is a hyped up fraud.
If I buy Bitcoin, am I buying a share of stock? What am I
Or are
buying?
you buying air?
So is it being used for real transactions? No. It is a cult.
as Saylor points out, it doesn't pay to be a digital denier. Any investor who held on to Blockbuster or Kodak stock learned that the hard way as we transition to the age of Netflix and Apple.
And there you have a little bit of a snippet from Michael Saylor, and we're going to hear more from this before the video's out. Michael Saylor is going to be telling you how much Bitcoin you need to be considered extremely wealthy, so don't miss out on this video. It's going to be jam-packed. With that, what's happening, Crypto Crew? Sean's coming back at you, another cryptocurrency video. Getting straight into it. Looking at one update here. This is from Master BTC. We're seeing, we're at the early stages of the bull market for Bitcoin. What you see every time we come up and hit this dotted line, this macro resistance, bull, bear, bull, bear, bull, bear, bull, bear, bull, bear, and then right now we're in the midst of a bull market. Are we going to break above this trend line? As you see, this is above the $100,000 threshold. Will Bitcoin get to that promised land of over 100K? Looks like that's in the cards, but we have to be patient. Take a look at the Bitcoin dominance. What do we see? We see Bitcoin dominance coming in at 50%. Now, what's going on? What can we anticipate? Looking at the EMAs, we did get a long call on the weekly. And the last time that we've seen a long call on the weekly, it did have a run up. How high did this go? Well, let's take a measure move. Once we've seen the long call, it went up about roughly almost 30%. So if we do another 30% move from when we had this long call, when would this happen, or how high would we go? 30% move would take us up to roughly around 56%. Now, at the current time it's recording, we've went up about 19%. And if we zoom into the price action, we can actually see that we're running into some resistance. And that resistance is around this moving average here. We didn't even get quite back above the 200. And looking at the RSI has been putting in a high, a higher high, a higher high, and now we continue just to stair step our way to the upside and even put in a higher high. Now, if we come back up and put in a higher low, then this trend could be, the gas could be running out the tank, and we could see a reversal. But as you see, we're above the EMAs, we're above the 20, not back above the 200, but there could be some more legs for Bitcoin to move to the upside. One thing to pay attention to and look at is this total 3 divided by Bitcoin chart. What is this and why do we care? This is the total 3 is the alt market, and you want to know what these comparatives are, and you want to pay attention to this because, as you see, if you were holding alt since the Bitcoin peak, your portfolio has bled against you almost 50%. This is something to pay attention to and be mindful of. The only anomaly you see in this chart is around this pandemic dump. So if we draw a line here, a macro resistance line, where could we be going? Could we see lower price action? We see we wick down, bounced off, wick down, fell through, bounced up. That's that pandemic black swan event. And could we see more downwards price action? That's a possibility. Could we draw this a little bit higher? Yeah, if that's the case, each one of these scenarios looks very bearish for altcoins. You see, we come up, fell through this support. If we're looking at this, and then we come back, retest it, we're going to see some more downwards price action. If we're using the wicks, we can come back down and have a further drop to the downside. From where we are, this could be another about 20% down. From the peak to the trough, it would be roughly, we'd be looking at a 50 to 55% move to the downside. Another 20% move from where we currently are. This definitely still looks bearish for alts. You want to hold Bitcoin. We're back below the 200, and right now that 20 has crossed over the 200, and we could run into this and then see further downwards price action for the alts. So keep this in mind. You don't want to be caught trying to catch a falling knife and watch your portfolio continue to bleed. This is that macro support line that we've been bouncing off of. Bounced off right here and fell through with a black swan event, but we have not came back down to there yet. So still more downwards pressure on alts. And without further ado, let's hear from Michael Saylor, and he's given us his take on what he thinks you need to hold and a good perspective to take if you're buying into Bitcoin. How much Bitcoin do you need? Let's hear from Michael.
You know, New York was the greatest city in North America by about 1776. And you would have been late to the party. But the question is, would you buy a city block in New York in 1776? Or if you waited till 1876 and you were really late to the party and New York was the greatest city in North America, was it too late to buy a city block in New York City in 1876? Or how about 1976? If you were 200 years late to New York City, if you look at the property values of New York in 1976, what you'll find is you would be rich if you had actually bought real estate in New York in 1976. So the answer to the issue is, in every economic system, every economic empire, there's always one city, one place one network where people gravitate to. In ancient, in the ancient Med, it was Carthage for a while, and then it was Rome, and then it was Venice, and eventually the French Empire terminated in Paris, and the British Empire terminated in London. And then eventually the American economic empire terminated in New York. And there are reasons why. It's just everybody comes together in that place. Even today, New York is still the economic epicenter of the United States. And so Bitcoin represents the economic epicenter of cyberspace. It is the one place where if I want to create a digital application, if I want to move money at the speed of light, and I live in Singapore, I'm using Bitcoin. If I live in Paris, I'm using Bitcoin. If I live in Moscow, I'm using Bitcoin. If I live in China, I'm using Bitcoin. So you see, everybody in the world that actually believes in the idea of a digital asset that wants to build this as a treasury reserve asset, they're going to gravitate toward the most powerful network. Why? Because everybody else is gravitating there. Why do people go to New York? Because the smart money is in New York. I could go to New York 20 years ago. I could take 10 meetings. I could raise $1 billion in 2 days. So why would you be so stupid as to go to New York? Well, because that's where the money is. The money is in New York, so I went. And what did I bring with me? I brought my brain power, and I built my business there. And so I then reinforced that network effect. Today, the smart money is in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's about a $500 billion network. How big can it get? Well, 500 trillion, 1,000x bigger in today's dollars. There's about $950 trillion worth of wealth out there. 350 trillion worth of real estate. Half of it is just capital or monetary premium. $300 trillion worth of bonds. Half of it is just a monetary premium. 100 trillion worth of equity, half of it is a monetary premium. 12 trillion worth of gold, 80% of it is a monetary premium. So as the world gets smarter, people are going to sell those things because they don't make good money. Gold is awful money, right? It's just awful money. If you store your money in gold, you're losing half of your wealth every 35 years. So why would you do that, right? It's not working. In the last 2.5 years, gold is down 5%, Bitcoin is up 150%. The only people that are buying or holding gold are people that aren't paying attention, right? The smart money is clearly running away from it, and in time, people will dump their gold, and when they dump their gold, Bitcoin will jump by a factor of 10. The answer to the question of why you should buy a Bitcoin is that Bitcoin represents one block in cyber New York, which has got 21 million blocks for all of eternity. And in the year 2500, people are going to be moving to cyber New York, right? I mean, New York was founded a long time ago, right? The only thing that keeps people from continuing to come into the great city, whether it's the New York or the London or the Paris, is when the economic flows move from the physical domain to the digital domain.